Seasons indeed changing on this Veterans Day, a day that takes on new meaning each year, that we have had men and women fighting both in Iraq and Afghanistan. Well, certainly not an isolated case. In fact, there are a group of veterans who have some harsh words about what these wars and who have come together to challenge lawmakers and some of their decisions. They've also come together in a new advertisement, a real account of the toll war can take. And here's a short clip from it.
We're hurting innocent people.
Our troops are suffering moral injuries fighting an unjust war.
When we have to shoot another human being, that's something that we have to live with forever.
Jake Delberto is with Rethink Afghanistan, joins us in studio today. Jake, what is your message on this Veterans Day?
This Veterans Day, I want to say that I thank God for the troops. I thank God for their sacrifices. And unfortunately, our political figures inside the Pentagon and inside the White House have made a few decisions that have gone off track. And it's not in the interest of the American people, and the wars are hurting our soldiers. And they're coming back with long-term costs, PTSD, fingers lost, arms lost, and as a result, no one seems to care. The media doesn't care. The New York Times said in the last election that only 7% of the population cared. And so it's time to bring the wars to an end. It's time to get the population engaged, and it's time to get people aware that war has costs.
I want to go back to something you just said. The media doesn't care. I couldn't help but watching all day long sort of Veterans Day honorary stories that I saw on a lot of the different cable networks today. You know, a lot of them honoring certain soldiers who risked their lives. A lot of them sort of glorifying the experience of war. Your thoughts just sort of on media coverage of this?
Well, I think that the media has done a certain amount of effort to bring the people on track that there is a war, but the media doesn't do a good job of demonstrating the costs of war, the bad memories that soldiers come back with, the torment that they go through when they have to shoot people, when they get in firefights with insurgents, and et cetera. And as a result, the American people have been removed from the real cost of war, and it's the media's fault. You've got Fox News saying that, you know, support the troops and we're at war on terror and, you know, go, go, go. And then you got MSNBC that's been semi-critical, but nobody has brought somebody on that's got a horrible dream to share, that talks about sleepless nights, that talks about alcohol addictions, and pretty much people say, I support the troops. And meanwhile, the long-term costs of war have not been raised by the media at large.
And you were talking before we came on about a commercial. Tell me about this, because I don't think I've seen this one yet.
Well, there's a great famous game, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't call it great, but it's Call of Duty. And in the beginning of this recent commercial, they've got a bunch of celebrities acting out war, making it look like it's fun. And it's the most popular game in history, and so you've got thousands of people playing it. And my problem with this advertisement is that it made war look sexy, and war's not sexy. It's brutal, it's ugly, and even if war is necessary, my problem is that, even if it is necessary, my problem is that people have not said, we apologetically go to war. We need to get it done as soon as possible. What do we hear from the Pentagon? We've got war for our children's to fight. You know how disgusting that is? Who's going to bring home those memories? Whose house is that going to invade? And that's why I'm opposed to this war, because we haven't said when it's going to be over, how are we going to get it done, and we don't have an end game.
And before you came on, we just saw a report that Lauren Lister did. She contrasted two soldiers, one about to embark on what he calls an adventure, and one who has come back from war, really negative, really impacted, deeply angry by his experience there, because he says, you know, I shot these people. This is what I have to live with. I want to talk about sort of the romanticization of this experience and also your take on recruiting measures in this country.
Yeah, well, I actually want to give a shout out, Lauren. That was an excellent piece that you did. It was a fantastic job, a fantastic piece of journalism. And I think one of the issues that piece did a fine job of saying is that you go into it with the idea that it's like a movie or it's like a comic book. But when you get on the field and you have those sleepless nights, you have those long hours, you have the immense amount of pain that you experience, and then you come back and pretty much the military just throws you back in the civilian world. You get 24 hours of debrief and they throw you back in the civilian world and you're supposed to act normal again. They can't do that. The military's got to change something fundamentally. When our soldiers get done with the combat tour, they need to have time, they need to have training to go back into the civilian world, to go back into the civilian life, and they need to receive care for the PTSD. I think the recruiting at the current state that it goes on, they make people seem like it's an adventure. Recruiters have a quota to meet. They make it seem like it's a romantic understanding of war. And then when they go in, they have this horrible experience. And then when they just get done, they said, oh, here's your money for college. Be gone with you. And that's not okay.
I thought it was interesting, too, how, she went to this basketball game and how they're coming up to young students, kids who come with their parents, and also high school students, a lot of them living in low-income neighborhoods. And certainly, for a lot of people, they think that this is their only option to get out of, living on the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, well, it's a draft of, it's a poverty draft. I mean, we say we don't have a draft today, but it's a poverty draft. It's what we have. You don't see people going from Harvard and Princeton joining the military. I mean, Harvard, I think last year they had 3 people get recruited. So, I think that it's okay. Whoever wants to join the military has that right, but we need to see the American people engaged in it, and not just be minorities, which is 50% of the military is minorities. We don't need to see simply just, people from Western Kentucky A&M University as officers. We need to see officer corps broadened. We need to see enlisted corps broadened. And American people need to be engaged.
But like you said, Jake, I mean, we need a military in this country. So what do we say? Go off, kill people, come back with no prospects for a job, come back with nightmares. How do you realistically sell this, but also recruit people?
Well, I think that the United States has to take a smaller foreign policy. I mean, right now we spend $700 billion a year in defense spending. We've got bases, 700 bases across 100 different countries. If you want to deal with the economic situation, you want to create jobs, you need to cut defense spending, you need to have a smaller footprint abroad, you need to have a more modest approach to dealing with this terrorist cells that are out there, and you need to invest in the country here. And unfortunately, the United States, the Congress and the White House thus far, with the previous Bush administration and now President Obama, has not made that decision. We need to do that. We need to start seeing that. And if we don't, America's going to be in serious decline for a long time.
All right, Jake Delberto with Rethink Afghanistan. We usually talk to you in California, but thanks for joining us here in D.C.